You might be doing this project just as you found my video online, or maybe you bought a craft kit from me or a pattern from me. Well, either way, I'm going to show you how to put this little fairy house together. If you did not buy a craft kit from me, you're going to take a regular sized piece of felt like you would regularly get at the craft store and fold it in half, hot dog style, and cut it in half. You only need one of these rectangles to make the fairy stump. And now we're going to get a little bit mathematical, and I'll put the equation up on the screen on how to figure out exactly how big your circle needs to be. And once you have that measurement, I just went ahead and pinned my measuring tape to the felt, and I just kind of like drew around it until I got a nice little circle, and that is the size that I need for my fairy stump. If you got a kit from me, it's probably already cut out for you in your kit, or if it's a pattern, you can just place that on top of your felt and cut that out. So I just freehanded this little door, and I wanted there to be like these like stone looking things around the door. So I took the door that I had already cut out, and I took some chalk and I traced it on a different color of felt just to give a little bit of contrast. And now I'm going to remove the door, and I'm going to cut like a fatter edge that will go around my fairy house door that I will make look like little stones. You can do whatever colors you want. This is a really like open-ended project. I mean, I'm going to show you what I did, but with all of the felt that you have and the pattern pieces, if you got a pattern from me, you can really just do whatever it is that you like. You can cut out whatever shapes you want. You can draw them with chalk, or you can draw them on a piece of paper first and pin that to the felt and then cut those shapes out. And also you can do a variety of stitches. So I just did like a running stitch on the door to kind of make it look like wood grain. And then for this next piece, I kind of wanted it to look like stones that were stacked on top of each other. So I just push across, like I just like pop out my needle on the edge, and then I just go straight across, nothing fancy, just to tack this piece of felt down, and it's going to make it look like stone that had been put around the fairy house door. Make sure you put a knot in the back when you start your work and when you end your work, so that you don't see the knot when the project is all finished. I cut out the teeniest, tiniest little doorknob. You could use a button for this, or you could just cut out a small piece of felt like I did, and I'm just going to tack that in place. Now I'm going to show you how I make the leaves. I make really, really tiny leaves. So I cut these little strips, and then I use my scissors to cut these almost like pointed teardrop shapes. As you cut, you'll have a piece that you cut like curved, like that little piece down there that looks like a little bow tie. You don't need that, but just keep cutting little curved edges along those rectangles, and you'll end up with all of these super cute little leaves. You can make them bigger if that's easier for you. You could also make them different colors. Like, they don't have to be green, they could be fall colors. I just kind of placed my leaves kind of generally where I thought I wanted them to go, just so I could kind of map out my plan. And then I tacked them on with one stitch each. And I really liked this because it kind of looked like, you know, that like center vein that leaves have. If you want, you can lay out all of your leaves and take your picture with your phone so that you can reference it when you have to take the leaves off to start sewing. I don't recommend pinning the leaves because they are so tiny, and it's going to make hand sewing really, really hard. You could also make little dots on your project with felt to show where you want to tack on those leaves. I don't know about you, but I think that mushrooms are just the cutest little thing. So I cut out this little mushroom stump, and I'm just using like a straight stitch or a running stitch to tack these on. But honestly, you can use whatever stitch you're most comfortable with. I think that blanket stitches are super, super cute as well. So if you want to do that instead, that's totally fine. Each fairy stump should be completely unique to you. cut out the mushroom cap, so I always start with the edge of my fabric so I don't like cut out of the center of my fabric because I don't want to waste anything. So I cut a square that was roughly the size that I wanted, and then I just kind of made up a shape. It's really just like a half oval. It's not that tricky, but again, if you have the pattern, you can just copy it from there. And then I did a straight stitch just to tack that down, and then I'm going to cut the tiniest little white spots for my mushroom. I only did 3, but you can do as many or as few as you want. Other things that you could put onto your little mushroom stool are little animals. If you wanted to cut out like a little squirrel, or if you wanted to cut out like a little ladybug or a snail or something like that, that would be super cute to do and kind of tack that on as well. You want to do all of the decorating of your stump before we assemble it together, because it's a lot easier to tack these details on while it's able to lay flat rather than when it's like a 3-dimensional piece. I'm going to show you how I make my flowers. So I will cut out a circle that is roughly the size that I want my flower petal to be. And then I will put up a little diagram here, but I just make these little kind of like triangular cuts into my circle to be the petals. It's okay if the edges of the petals are a little bit squared right now. We can fix that later. Right now, we're just trying to establish where all of the petals are going to be. I cut them pretty small, so if you need them to be bigger, that's totally fine. Or if you want to practice cutting these out on paper first before you do your felt, that works too. But just remember, you can round out the edges of those petals afterwards. I'm going to grab these really tiny yellow squares, and again, I'm just going to cut small little spots that are going to be the center of my flower. The easiest way for me to cut out circles is just to start with a square and then just to go around with my scissors and just cut out a small circle. So I'm going to go ahead and put one of those in the center of each of my flowers, and then when I sew it to tack it down to my project, I'm just going to sew right into the center of the flower. That way the petals can kind of be like a little bit more loose, and they can kind of come out like real flowers. Once you are finished decorating your stool, you're going to go ahead and fold it in half, and we're going to do a whip stitch or a blanket stitch all the way up from the bottom to the top. We want it to stay into like a cylindrical shape, so make sure you make your little knot and that you sew it in a way that it's just a small little stitch all the way up from the bottom to the top. We are going to take the bottom of our stool and we're going to attach it. I'm going to show you how you do this. You need a lot of pins, and I also will put up a diagram. So start on one side of your stool and then flip it over to the complete other side and go ahead and pin that. And then once you do that, you're going to turn it to the opposite side and pin that. And then you're just going to keep turning and pinning and turning and pinning. Keep going from one side to the opposite side. Give it a little bit of a turn, pin it, flip to the opposite side, pin it. You will have a lot of pins, and as they get in your way, just go ahead and take them out. I'm also making sure that my knot is going to be on the inside of my project, so just kind of poke it in there. I'm going to just do a whip stitch all the way around, and you can see that when I go to make my stitch, I kind of tack down the thread with my fingers that are holding the project, just so that when I go to pull my thread, it doesn't get like all tangled up in those pins. This is a slow process, but it's going to be very satisfying when you're done. I'm going to put the knot on the inside of my project, so just tuck it in there, flip your project a little bit inside out. You don't need to go the whole way, and go ahead and make a knot. Like to take all of my little scraps and stuff them into the bottom. If you wanted this to be weighted, like if you were worried about this not getting knocked over, you could put a weight or some rocks in the bottom of this. But I'm just going to do my scraps, and then I'm going to take some polyfill and I'm going to just stuff it. Now, this is where you're going to need some chalk, and you're going to need that thicker needle, like a yarn needle, but it has to be sharp or it's not going to work. So we're going to do the like rings that are on the top of the stool. I'm just doing a swirl. If you wanted to do like little circles like actual rings look like, that's fine too. But I'm just going to do a swirl. It does take a little bit of effort to get it through the felt just because it's so thick, but we're just going to do a little straight stitch, and we're going to follow along the chalk lines that we did. There will be spaces in between this first round of stitches, and you will see that, and that is okay because we're going to go back around from the other direction and fill in all of those gaps like you see right here. So the first round, you're just doing your first few stitches, and then the second round, when you go through, you're filling in all of those gaps. I also found it to be easier to get the yarn through if you just have like one single piece of yarn with a knot on the end, as opposed to like doubling over the yarn and tying a knot. It just makes it a little bit easier. We're going to do the same method for pinning. I'll put another diagram up just to help because this can be a little bit tricky, but once you get it, you definitely get it. So pin on one side, go to the complete opposite side and pin, and then you're going to turn your piece and do the same thing. You're going to pin and then flip it over to the opposite side and pin. You might have to squish down your stuffing a little bit to get all of those pins in, and that's fine. You can always add stuffing right at the very end before you close up your work if you think that maybe it needs more or maybe it needs a little bit less. And same thing like we did before, I'm just going to do a whip stitch, but I also think that a blanket stitch is also super pretty. Be patient with this, be careful with this because there's a lot happening. There are a lot of pins in there, and when one of those pins gets in your way, just go ahead and remove it because you probably do not need it anymore. Okay, you're done. So go ahead and snip your threads and just kind of reshape your stool a little bit. It probably got a little misshapen while you were working with it. These are super cute for kids. They're super cute just for display. I like to make little fairy pig dolls with my kids and they can play with them like that. You could also make this into a pin cushion.